Warning, this video will spoil parts of Book 1 and all of Book 2 of Infinity Train, as well as speculate on potential protagonists and plot points of Book 3. If you haven't watched Books 1 or 2 yet, or don't want any possible knowledge of Book 3, this is your chance to click off. Now, let's get into it. Book 2 of Infinity Train gave us so much new lore about the world of the show. Like, denizens of the train can leave. Amelia repurposed her pod to become the conductor. You can go on the Infinity Train more than once. All of this new info is really cool, and I can't wait to get to see even more of it. And with Infinity Train confirmed to be coming to HBO Max, I wouldn't be surprised to see a third season coming relatively soon. The original order was only 20 episodes, but I think it's a given to say that we'll be getting Book 3. Not much is known about this hypothetical book yet, but one thing I've been speculating on lately is the possible protagonist for this upcoming season. I'm Nick, and today we're going to try to figure out who the protagonist for Book 3 will be. Book 1 had Tulip, and through her travels, we were introduced to MT. MT went on to become the protagonist for Book 2. Following this formula, I believe that we could have already met the protagonist for Book 3. We were introduced to so many interesting characters within Books 1 and 2, and now that we know a denizen can be the protagonist of a book, the possibilities are nearly endless. But I think I have a few ideas on who it could be. Now, first things first, I want to get one contender out of the way. I do not think Amelia will be the protagonist for Book 3. I've seen plenty of people hoping to see Amelia as the protagonist, but I just can't see it happening yet. Her complete absence in Book 2 makes me believe that she is off exploring the Infinity Train, taking Tulip's advice to heart and trying to get her number down, possibly by righting the wrong she committed while she was the conductor. Although I don't think she'll be the protagonist of Book 3, I can definitely see her being a major character in a book somewhere down the line, if we are so blessed as to receive more Infinity Train content. Her character has a lot of intrigue, and it would be a waste of potential to not show us more of her in the future. Now, let's talk about someone who's got a pretty good chance of being the protagonist of Book 3. I'm talking about Grace. Grace's character was developed well for the 2 episodes she appeared in, and the writers of Infinity Train want us to remember her. She sticks out like a sore thumb in the Apex, having more on-screen time than any other member. She's a young passenger with her head way up her butt, and I think her story would be really interesting to see unfold. Whether we get flashbacks to see when and how she got on the train, or these episodes start in the past, it'd be very enticing to see how the Apex was formed. Something seriously messed up had to have happened to her to make her the way she is, and I'm confident we'll find out sooner rather than later. Although Grace would have a really intriguing story to follow, I actually don't think she'll be the protagonist of the next book. I do believe, just like Amelia, that she could be a main character in a book down the line, and possibly even in Book 3, but I'll get to that later. But I think the team will want a protagonist that's a little different. Someone close to Grace, but not Grace. Grace was an excellent antagonist in Book 2, and I think our protagonist for Book 3 will be close with the Apex. I've been thinking long and hard as to who that may be, and I think I've got a couple of good guesses. Among all the current members of the Apex, I think Simon has the best shot at being the protagonist of Book 3. Book 2 showed us that Infinity Train is not scared to have its protagonist do bad things, such as MT smashing those robots, stealing pods, and killing Mace. I wouldn't be surprised if the crew wanted to follow an actual antagonist as their main character, and Simon is a perfect fit for this. Although he's not the head honcho of the Apex, he is second in command. He seems to have just as much say as Grace, if not a little less. Having Simon be the main character leaves an antagonist to deal with in Grace, while giving us a messed up protagonist who will eventually be reformed. If the crew decides to follow Simon, I believe we would see the eventual demise or splitting of the Apex, one side led by Simon and the other by Grace. Even though I think that these events have a good chance of happening, I'm not entirely sold on Simon being the main character. My next pick, however, is my top contender for main protagonist for Book 3. But before I go on to my final guess, I want to talk quickly about an honorable mention. This character could be a fun and unique protagonist, but I don't think the crew would dedicate an entire book to her. I think that the cat has a potential to hold a book of her own. She's a very interesting character with pre-existing motives, and what we've seen so far has left her character sort of an enigma. Despite this, I believe that the cat is too spelled out already to become a protagonist. I believe we will see the continuation of her story through her encounters with protagonists, but nothing more past that. I could see her, however, having a series of world-building shorts like 1-1 did with the train documentaries. The cat will most likely stay relegated to being a side character, appearing sometimes, but never as the main focus of a book. But I would kill to see a series of shorts starring her. Wouldn't you? I would also love to see more of the mirror world. Having a second character get a mirror version of themselves might be overdoing it, but MT was cool and different enough from Tulip, so who knows? Now, onto my final guess. I think it's likely that the Apex will be the central conflict of Book 3. A really strong way to get us to see the inner workings of the Apex is to give us a protagonist who recently joined them, or actually joins on screen. A young, naive protagonist learning the ropes of what it's like to be a member of the Apex would be a great gateway for the audience to learn more about the creepy cult. I think the character most suitable for this job would be the young girl from episode 9 of book 2, The Tape Car. Remember her?
It was an accident!
Out of all the characters we met in books 1 and 2, I think this unnamed girl would be a great candidate for protagonist. Although her issue of reptilian manslaughter seems shallow, I think she'll become a part of something much more. I think book 3 will open with her on the train, trying to learn from her mistakes. With help from 1-1's orientation video, she'll be on the right track. She'll learn to respect nature and living things, treating them with care. But before her number reaches 0, she'll have a run-in with the Apex. Being a scared and impressionable young girl, she'll wind up joining the Apex, reverting most of the things she learned in the process. I believe, through her eyes, we'll learn more about the inner workings of the Apex, ultimately leading to their downfall at the end of the season. Additionally, the girl's voice is credited to Ashley Johnson, the voice of both Tulip and MT. I didn't realize that until I looked it up, but this means that her voice actor's already on the voice crew for Infinity Train. I believe that this fact, plus her being young, naive, and impressionable, makes her a great candidate for the main protagonist of Book 3. But despite all this, the show could wipe the slate completely clean and start anew. I wouldn't put it past the crew to introduce a completely new protagonist who was never hinted at as they did with Jesse. I really like the mix of someone familiar with someone new for the leads of Book 2, so maybe they'll stick to that pattern. To be honest, any young kid could take the place of the little lizard girl. I'd be surprised to not see her at all in Book 3, but the Infinity Train crew has surprised us time and time again. Regardless, I am so psyched to see more, and you know I'll be hopping on that trailer as soon as it drops. But what do you guys think about all this? Was I completely on the money, or not even close? Leave your thoughts down below, I would love to hear them. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Nick, and I'm really excited to get to share my thoughts on Infinity Train with you guys. If you liked hearing me talk and want to hear even more of me, leave this video a like. I have plenty more ideas about Infinity Train that I want to share with you guys, so stay tuned for those in the future. I'll see y'all in the next one.